Welcome everyone to ManageEngine Patch Tuesday webinar for the month of March 2025. Let's protect our systems, stay vigilant against threats, and ensure a safer digital space for the months ahead. This March, spring into action and prioritize security because nothing blossoms like a well-patched system. With immense gratitude, we express our delight at having you all join us on this fine morning. Let's get ready for an insightful session. I am Niveda, product expert at ManageEngine, and I'll be your presenter today. Alongside me, we have our patch pundits ready to engage with you in real time via chat. So please feel free to post your questions throughout the webinar. Kindly note that it will be a 60-minute webinar and it is being recorded. The recorded session will be sent to your registered email IDs in 2 to 3 working days. So what's on the agenda for today's session? First up, we will have a detailed breakdown of the Windows lifecycle as well as the end-of-life dates for the various Windows versions. Next, we'll be discussing the Patch Tuesday updates for the month of March. And then we'll also be demonstrating how you can simplify the patch management process for your network's endpoints using ManageEngine's patch management solution. Followed by that, we will also be sharing some of the best practices for patching that you can follow to perform patch management for your hybrid networks. And last but not the least, as always, we'll have a question and answer session wherein we'll be addressing all your queries. Moving on to the Windows lifecycle. If you're still running Windows 10, here's an important heads up. Its active support will officially end on October 14th, 2025. That means after that date, no more security updates or feature improvements. So if you haven't already, it's definitely time to start planning your upgrade to Windows 11 before support runs out. But don't worry. If you're already using Endpoint Central for patch management, you're in a great position to handle this transition smoothly. Let me walk you through how it can simplify the entire upgrade process for you. Let's jump into the console. On the home page, you'll see Zia's analysis. This feature is super helpful when making the move from Windows 10 to 11. It gives you insights like which Windows 10 devices are reaching end of life and which ones are ready to upgrade to Windows 11. Plus, you'll get other useful info to guide you along the way. For more details on how to get started, check out the links shared by our panelists in the chat. At ManageEngine, we're excited to share that you can easily initiate the feature pack update through Patch Manager Plus. Also, folks, we've put together an easy-to-follow guide on how to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 using ManageEngine Endpoint Central. Simply scan the QR code to watch it or check out the link we've shared in the chat. Several software applications are approaching their end of life soon. We've highlighted a few key ones, but it's important to stay informed about all outdated software running on your endpoints. To view the complete list of end-of-life software, along with their expiration dates, go to Threats and Patches, and Threats, and then High-Risk Software. This section provides detailed insights, helping you proactively identify and mitigate potential security risks before they become a threat to your environment. Let's move on to Patch Tuesday update breakdown now. So this time there are 57 vulnerabilities, out of which 7 are also zero-day vulnerabilities. We'll be discussing them in the later slides, but taking a look at the breakdown, we see a total of 155 patches released to mitigate the 57 vulnerabilities. Also, if these vulnerabilities are left unpatched in your endpoints, they can cause 6 different kinds of impacts in your systems, which we'll also be discussing in detail in the following slides. So as I said earlier, there are 7 zero-day vulnerabilities released in this month's Patch Tuesday. Let me quickly show you where you would find zero-day vulnerability in our console. Let us navigate to the top menu, click on Threats and Patches. On the left pane, click on Threats and choose zero-day vulnerability. Now let me go ahead and fix this vulnerability in my system. Let us tick off the box and click on Install Patches. It will automatically take you to manual deployment. By applying all the necessary configurations, you can successfully patch this zero-day vulnerability. The zero-day vulnerability CVE 2025-24983 affects Windows Win32 kernel subsystem, and this vulnerability causes elevation of privilege. Microsoft has warned about a vulnerability that could allow local attackers to gain system privileges by exploiting a race condition. While details on how it was used in attacks are limited, more insights may come later. This has been assigned a CVSS rating of 7.0. The next vulnerability is CVE 2025-24984, CVE 2025-24993, and CVE 2025-24991 found in Windows NTFS. And this can cause information disclosure and remote code execution. Microsoft warns that attackers with physical access to a device can exploit this flaw by inserting a malicious USB drive. This could let them access parts of the system's memory and steal sensitive data. Interestingly, the vulnerability was disclosed anonymously. This has been assigned a CVSS rating of 4.6, 7.8, and 5.5 respectively. The next zero-day vulnerability is CVE 2025-24985, found in Windows FastFat file system driver, and this causes remote code execution. Microsoft reports that this remote code execution flaw stems from an integer overflow in the Windows FastFat driver. An attacker could exploit it by convincing a user to mount a specially crafted VHD file, triggering the vulnerability. While details on real-world exploits remain unclear, similar malicious VHDs have been used in phishing attacks and pirated software. The flaw was disclosed anonymously. This has been assigned a CVSS rating of 7.8. Next, we have CVE 2025-26630 found in Microsoft Access. Microsoft attributes this remote code execution flaw to a use after free memory bug in Microsoft Office Access. To exploit it, an attacker would need to trick a user into opening a malicious access file, often through phishing or social engineering. However, the preview pane doesn't pose a risk. The flaw was discovered by unpatched.ai. This has been assigned the CVSS rating of 7.8. The last zero-day vulnerability is CVE 2025-26633, found in Microsoft Management Console, and this can cause security feature bypass. Microsoft hasn't shared specific details about this flaw, but it likely allows malicious Microsoft Management Console files to bypass security and execute code. An attacker would need to trick a user into opening a specially crafted fill, either through email, messaging, or a malicious link. This has been assigned a CVSS rating of 7.0. Now let us move on to the critical vulnerabilities. We have 6 critical vulnerabilities this month out of the 57 total vulnerabilities. We have 51 important vulnerabilities too. So let's talk in detail about the critical vulnerabilities, and all these vulnerabilities cause remote code execution. The critical vulnerability CVE 2025-24035 and CVE 2025-24045 is a vulnerability affecting the Windows Remote Desktop Services. Exploiting these flaws requires an attacker to win a race condition. Even with this prerequisite, Microsoft has rated both vulnerabilities as exploitation more likely. Moving to the next critical vulnerability, it's CVE 2025-24057 affecting Microsoft Office. A heap-based buffer overflow in Microsoft Office is a serious vulnerability that can allow an attacker to execute arbitrary code on a targeted system. This flaw arises when Office improperly manages memory allocation on the heap, which is used for dynamic memory storage. Next, we have CVE 2025-26645 affecting Windows Remote Desktop Client Services. As we know, the Remote Desktop Client is a Windows feature that allows users to connect to and control remote computers over a network. A relative path traversal vulnerability in the client could let attackers exploit improper path handling to execute unauthorized code remotely. This flaw can be leveraged through malicious RDP servers or network-based attacks, potentially leading to system compromise. Microsoft recommends applying the latest patches to mitigate this risk. Coming up next, we got CVE 2025-24064 affecting Windows Domain Name Service. DNS is what helps translate domain names into IP addresses so we can browse the internet easily. But there's a use after free flaw in Windows DNS Server that could let attackers run malicious code remotely. By sending specially crafted requests, they can exploit memory issues and potentially take control of the system. And lastly, we have CVE 2025-24084 affecting Windows Subsystem for Linux kernel. Windows Subsystem for Linux, WSL, lets users run Linux environments directly on Windows without a virtual machine. But there's an untrusted pointer dereference flaw that could let a local attacker execute code. By manipulating memory pointers, they might gain unauthorized access or crash the system. If exploited, this could lead to privilege escalation or data compromise. Now, speaking about the patches by impact, as we mentioned earlier that if these vulnerabilities are left unpatched, they can have 6 different kinds of impacts on your systems. Starting with 23 causing elevation of privilege, 23 causing remote code execution, 4 causing information disclosure, 3 causing spoofing, 3 causing security feature bypass, and 1 causing denial of service. Now, let's take a look at the operating systems and the applications that have been affected this month. So as we saw earlier, there were a total of 57 vulnerabilities, out of which 37 have been found in Windows, 11 in Microsoft Office, and Power BI, 5 in developer tools, and 4 in Azure. Dear participants, if you want the entire information about the Patch Tuesday updates, you can directly refer to ManageEngine's Patch Tuesday forum post.